Hello everyone, welcome to Sunya IAS, and this is your lecture number 1 for the subject of Indian polity. Alright, and in this particular lecture, we'll be covering the basics of Indian polity. Alright, and then we'll be moving on to the very first topic of our syllabus, that is the salient features of Indian polity or Indian constitution. ठीक है जी, चलो. Before we begin, let's quickly have a look at what all we are going to cover in this class. Because what will happen in the end, you people will realize that if we are skipping this aspect, then you will have a bunch of notes. But what are they referring to? Where are they starting? Where are they ending? What are the topics? What is the logical analogy of the topics? This thing will be missing. And once you miss this aspect, the revision or revising these notes will become a kind of an impossible thing. Okay? So this has to be your I would say starting mantra for the lecture, right? So let's first quickly see that what all we are going to cover in this particular class. So the first thing we'll be looking at is what is Indian polity. What is Indian polity? And इसी में ही we will be covering the topics like how Indian polity is different from political science, how the keyword Indian polity is differentiated from another keyword that is called as your political system, right? So all these keywords will be addressed here. Second aspect we'll be dealing with is what is constitution. That what is constitution. जिसे हम बात करते हैं, the first topic with respect to our syllabus is the salient features of Indian Constitution, right? The salient features of Indian Constitution. So before understanding the features of something, right? So let's understand here that Constitution, we do not know what is it, right? But we have to do the features of that Constitution. So can we do a feature of any individuals? Can we know about the features of any individuals before knowing what that individual is? The answer is no. Hence, before doing the salient features, we'll be covering here that what is a constitution. ठीक है जी, चलो. Then the third thing we'll be covering in this lecture is what is this keyword constitutionalism is. ठीक है, that what is this keyword constitutionalism, तो उसको देखेंगे. Then the fourth aspect we'll be moving on with is that types of constitution. Types of constitution, sir. And while we are discussing the types of constitution, here we will be clubbing the constitution on the basis of two things, sir. The first category of differentiation, if you want to differentiate any constitution, is whether that constitution is a written constitution or it is a unwritten constitution. Right, so we'll be looking at that what is a written constitution. उसमें ऐसा क्या होगा कि that constitution is called a written constitution. Then there is an unwritten constitution. In the end, both are constitutions, but what is the difference between them, right? The second categorization of these topics of this constitution can be done on the basis of whether they are rigid or they are flexible. Then we'll be looking at this aspect. Abhi ke liye just understand and know the keywords what we are going to refer. Then we'll be beginning with it. ठीक है जी. Fifth thing, when we'll be discussing the types of constitutions, the next aspect we are going to test is the amendment procedure. Is the amendment procedure. Now, you know the meaning of this word called as amendment, sir? The amendment means to amend something. To amend something means to change something, right? Let's say that there are two individuals. There was one individual who was very much acceptable to the changes in his life, right? Who was very much acceptable. Let's say that individual was living in his home, in the comfort of his home. Every morning he used to receive a glass full of milk and some dry fruits from his mother. Then at 10 a.m. Then her mother used to give her bread omelette, a breakfast thing. Then in the 2 o'clock, their mother gives him or her the lunch. Evening time, he receives tea and evening snacks. Then at 7 p.m. he receives his juice glass, right? And then 8 or 9 p.m. he receives his dinner. Now this very individual, for the purpose of preparing for this UPSC CSE examination, shifts to this place called as Old Rajendra Nagar, which is also called as the Makkah of UPSC examination, right? So here, do you think that he will be receiving all these things? Right? So will his survival be impacted? The answer is yes. But the individual who will be able to overcome all these challenges, not getting proper food, and still he is adjusting himself to whatever food is available for him and still working hard, will be acing this examination. So in such a situation, such an individual will be called as that he is a flexible individual. There is another individual who came to Old Rajendra Nagar and is not getting this whatever schedule he was following at home. So what will be the result? In 10 or 15 days, in 1 month or 2 months, he'll tell his parents that I am not able to survive for this examination. This examination is not meant for me. Okay, I'm not able to change myself. I'm not able to adapt myself with the present time and exigencies. Such an individual will be called a rigid individual. Okay. On the same basis, what we classify, the constitution which are able to change themselves with the present time's needs. And there are some constitutions which have a very difficult criteria or a very difficult procedure to change them to adapt with respect to the present times and needs. So on this basis, the ones who are able to adapt themselves will be called as flexible constitutions. The ones will be able to adapt, but the procedure is very difficult for their adaptation, they will be called as rigid constitutions. So here we'll be classifying how. So that they are rigid or flexible now is done on the procedure. So here in the amendment procedure, the changing procedure, what is the procedure to change? We'll be discussing all the available procedures with respect to Indian Constitution, and then we'll decide that whether Indian Constitution is a rigid constitution or a flexible constitution, sir. Okay, so this will be our next topic. Let's move ahead. Then we'll be discussing the next salient feature of Indian Constitution, sir. That is called as your, just a minute, democracy. Democracy. India is a democracy, or India has a democratic constitution. So what do you mean by democracy? We'll be discussing that. Okay. Then here we'll be discussing the subtopic with respect to this, that what are the different types of democracy? What are the different types of democracies? So then we'll be doing the types of democracy. We have direct democracy, we have indirect democracy. In that also we have lot many divisions. So what is democracy? What are the different types? From there on we'll be moving to what kind of democracy India is. What kind of democracy India is. Isme we'll be clubbing that is India a liberal democracy? Don't worry, we'll be discussing the meaning of this word liberal as we are doing this. Okay, what is liberal? We'll understand there. Is India a social democracy? Or the third keyword, which is an unique keyword with respect to the Indian features, that is India is a welfare state. Okay, so what are all these concepts? We'll be discussing this. Okay, ji, chalo. Then what we'll be doing is that, then the seventh salient feature, that is your keyword called as republic, sir. Republic. Aapne suna hoga that India is a republic as well. So what do you mean by republic? How this concept of republic is different from the concept of monarchy, right? Monarchy matlab hota hai king's rule. So republic kya hota? If king's rule is monarchy, then what is republic which we are following? Because we do not have any king which is there to rule above our heads, right? We'll be looking at this concept. And then in the last, we'll be discussing this concept of form of government. Form of government. Form of government. That which form of government is being followed in India. Okay? So when we talk about this, here we have to discuss that India follows a parliamentary system. Okay? So parliamentary system is followed in India. Versus here we will be differentiating with it with the presidential system. With the presidential system. So इस चीज का the context with respect to this is that there is a type of government which is followed in India, sir, right? And that system of government is parliamentary form of government. वो होता क्या अभी के लिए भूल जाओ. When we'll be discussing this, we'll be discussing that as well. So the type of government or the structure of government which we are following in India is parliamentary system. If we are following one system, obviously by rational logic, there might be some another system which might be going on in some other part of the world. That system is called as your presidential system. ठीक है? तो अभी you are new, but what is from here, from understanding the parliamentary versus what is presidential, we'll be discussing, then coming upon the debate that जो system हम follow कर रहे हैं, the system we people are following has some problems in it. We'll be discussing those problems, and hence there has been various demands that from this parliamentary form of government, India should shift now to presidential form. But then we'll be balancing it. We'll say that it's okay, these are the problems, so we should shift to presidential system, but ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होगा. Understand this keyword, ठीक है? So in philosophical world it is said that everything in this world is relative, sir. Everything in this world is relative, and this aspect which I am telling you, this should reflect in your answer writing in each and every subject. Star mark करके इसको एक अपना मंत्र लिख लो for UPSC answer writing, ठीक है? So we are staying in this world. So there was this very famous philosopher you might have heard by the name of Plato, ठीक है? So there was this philosopher called as Plato, right? He said that this world is not a real world, ठीक है? ये जो अपना जहाँ पे हम what we are able to see, no, this all, these are not real world. Why? Because everything in this world is relative. और यही चीज the philosophy of the Indian philosophical school called as Buddhism, ठीक है, the बौद्ध धर्म, they have also said everything in this world is relative. What do you mean by relative? है ना? Let's understand it with your example. You will be able to understand in a better word. ठीक है, चलो. Let's say you started preparing. After 2 classes, you decided that let's give a mock test. देखे तो what we know. Let's check ourselves. And you were 3 flatmates which were staying together and taking the same class. Now you all 3 attempted the mock test to test yourselves. But what did you find? You scored 90 marks. Let's say out of 200, you scored a decent marks, that is 90 marks. And you are happy. Yes. 90 आ गया. Last year 2021 में the cutoff जो आया पिछले साल, that was 87. So I am now clearing the mock test which are considered to be difficult. वहाँ पे तो जाके 5-10 number extra आएंगे. I will be able to clear the cutoff. Immediately after 10 minutes, when you were so much happy, you ordered something McD for yourself or something to please yourselves, to reward yourself. Someone knocks at your door, right? And that is your another flatmate. He comes with the mark sheet in your hand, in his hand or in her hand, and he tells you that this person, I have got 113 marks. 113 marks. Immediately your entire expression of happiness is going to turn into sadness. You were happy, but then you became sad. So you cancelled that order from Zomato or ONDC, the new concept, right? Or Swiggy, whatever it is. Let's be neutral. But then after another 10 minutes, when you were sad, the third of your flatmate knocks the door. And this time, he's there with his mark sheet. And he has scored 67 marks. Your happiness will boom again. You'll again be happy. And you will reorder this. So what does this mean? Everything in this world is relative. You are able to experience happiness in this world because at some point you have experienced sadness. You have suffered the bad feelings, hence this feeling which is comparatively good is making you happy. But there is this another keyword which is used by this Gen Z or this generation, new generation. They say that we are not happy, we are in bliss. What do you mean by bliss? Bliss is another term for happiness, but that keyword bliss cannot be used in this word because this word is relative. Bliss is something when you will attain bliss, there will be no sadness. But here, why are you able to experience happiness? Because you were sad at some point of time. right? And why are you sad? Why are you feeling comparatively sad? Because you were happy at this point of time. So just from this analogy, understand everything is relative. Now let's come back to this aspect. When someone is telling us that we are following parliamentary system of government, but in another part of world there is presidential system, we have flaws in our parliamentary system, so we should follow presidential system. So if examiner in the real exam asks you that India follows a parliamentary form of government, but there are various challenges to parliamentary form of government, full stop. In this context, critically examine the debate with respect to the adoption of presidential form of government. So there you have to tell the examiner that yes, this is the parliamentary system. These are the positives why we adopt it, but these are now the challenges to it. ये उसके challenges हैं sir. इसकी वजह से there is a demand that we want to follow presidential system. पर everything is relative. Presidential system wherever it is followed in the world will have its own challenges. Hence, we should not shift to the presidential system, but we should correct our defects of the parliamentary form of government. Right? So your entire answer writing should follow this trend. Alright, so here we will be discussing the form of government, that is the parliamentary form of government. Then we will be discussing what is the presidential system, sir. Okay, so here we will be catering to the debate also. Okay, that should India shift to presidential system or not? Okay, that should India shift, yes or no? So we'll be catering to all these aspects. Chalo, abhi let's move on to our first thing, that what is Indian polity? What is this thing जो आपके syllabus में लिखा है, which is a monster to you guys? What is this Indian polity? Chalo, I expect that majority of you people, with the exception of those who actually have political science in class 10+2 or in their graduation, you people must have heard that there is something called as a subject that is political science. Okay? So this keyword, which is your political science, ये सबने सुना होगा. ठीक है, या तो when you were opting for graduation आपने सुना होगा let me do BA honors in political science, or in class 12th I should have a political science as a subject, or if you would have not there, in your college there might be a department of political science, or there might be some students or your friends in your hostel who have political science. Now before knowing what is Indian polity, we have to have a knack of what this political science is. ठीक है, so if we talk in crux, so this subject called as political science deals with the theoretical aspect, Now your next immediate question should be, what theoretical aspect? Theoretical aspect means theories, sir. So what theories are there in this? Right, so if we talk about theories, so this contains the theoretical aspect of how to run a state. If I'm saying state here, state यहाँ पे मान के चलो इंडिया, तो जो इंडिया के नेता हैं, इंडिया के पॉलिटिशियंस हैं, इंडियन गवर्नमेंट है, how it has to run India, what it should do to run India in a peaceful and a harmony environment, and a peaceful environment which is full of harmony, how to run India in that manner, right? How to make rules and regulations, whose function it should be to make the laws for the people to live in harmony, whose function it should be. It deals with the should be aspect. Theory always prescribes something that this should be there, right? So all these aspects. ठीक है, अभी रफ लेमन लैंग्वेज में पता चल गया होगा क्या करता है, कुछ नहीं, ये जस्ट बताता है कि एक देश का जो पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम है वो रन कैसे होना चाहिए. The political system of a nation, how it should be run, is explained in this subject called as political science. ठीक है, अभी इसके मन में ये नहीं लेके आना कि देश में गवर्नमेंट ही चला रही, कोई देश ऐसा भी होगा, देयर माइट बी सम कंट्री which is being ruled by a monarch or a king. So how a king should rule his nation, that is also the subject of political science, right? So all these aspects are dealt there, but this is not our thing. This will act as the base. This will act as our base to understand the subject of Indian polity. Now then, what is Indian polity? If this is a theoretical aspect which is dealing that how a political system, what is a political system? Political system matlab समझो your entire India's political system, how you elect your politicians. ठीक है, आपकी सबकी each and every one of you might be living in any of the constituencies of India. That constituency has a particular MLA which goes to the state legislative assembly or Vidhan Sabha. You people also have an MP, that is member of parliament, who sits in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, that is the Indian parliament at the national level. ये भी डिटेल में समझेंगे. अभी के लिए just for a brief understanding, आप नेता लोग चुनते हो, you select politicians जो आगे जाते हैं, how they will be selected. So they are the ones, this entire functionality, you are sending them to the Vidhan Sabha, you are sending by electing them to parliament, and there they are working for you guys. This is what? This is political system. How this will be done? This is political science theory part. Now, what is Indian polity? This is the theory which is made to run a political system. But you know, theory is a static aspect. Theory is a static aspect. जैसे आपके मम्मा और पापा, when they send you to old Rajendra Nagar, they prescribe you or they tell you a lot many things. This thing should be done in this manner. This thing should be done in this manner. But when you come to Warren, on the real ground situation, there might be certain circumstances which will compel you to deviate from the actual words told by your mother and father. Let's say mother and father has ascribed you that you should wake up at 5 AM in the morning. That is the best time to study. What if in the previous night you had your mock test and then you were seeing the solutions of that mock test and it turned to be 1 AM in the night and you slept at 1 AM? Will it be possible? You did nothing wrong, right? You need adequate sleep of 7 hours. You did nothing wrong, you were studying. But there, without doing anything wrong, you have to deviate from the theory because the actual ground situations are something different. That is what? That becomes your Indian polity. When to run a political system, this provides the static aspect, that things should be actually this. Now, along with the static aspect, we have to look upon the dynamic things which are happening. We have to look upon the dynamic things, the dynamic aspects. When we combine both of these, this becomes the subject matter of what is mentioned in your syllabus, that is the Indian polity. That is the Indian polity. Okay, so this we are going to study. This is our subject matter. Clear? Sure. Let's move upon the next word, sir. That what is your constitution? That what is your constitution? Sure. Whenever we talk about this word called as constitution, there might be various thoughts. कई लोग ऐसे होंगे जो totally blank. Some people would have different opinions. So let's have a 10-second brainstorming session to have your views that what constitution is. What constitution is. चलो हो गया, सबके मन में आया होगा. There is democracy, everyone has free will to express their views. You can express what is it, कुछ भी लिख लो साथ में, है ना. चलो अभी let's discuss what is constitution. Whenever we say that there is a country, that country in the subject of Indian polity, we are dealing with the political system of that country. ठीक है. So हर एक country का what we are doing in Indian polity, we are discussing its political system. We are discussing its political system. Right? So, इस political system में, in this political system, what powers are to be given to what authority, what powers are to be given to what individual, what powers are to be given to which institution, which power or what powers are to be given to any organization. The thing which divides these powers is called as a constitution. So in other words, if I have to say, the constitution is a power map. The constitution is a power map. ये कीवर्ड समझो. Why I called Indian Constitution a power map? अभी तक आप जब भी when you must have visited the tourist place, ठीक है, और let's say not even the tourist place, let's say you want to travel, I'll take example of let's say Delhi, ठीक है. In Delhi, you people have came to Old Rajendra Nagar and you want to go to this beautiful place called as CP. That is Connaught Place, right? What immediately you will do? You'll open the Google map. What Google map is showing you? This is the road, right? From here you have to take right turn. There is a traffic, so don't take right turn, you take left turn. Then by this traveling for 12 to 13 minutes, covering the distance of 1.3 kilometers, you will be reaching CP, sir, right? Then there is another map, that is your India's map or world map. Let's talk about India's map. What India's map has to tell you? The physical map of India, the geographical aspect. It tells you where are the Himalayas situated. This is the eastern coast of India. This is the western coast of India. On the eastern coast, you have Bay of Bengal. On the western coast, you have Arabian Sea. Here you have a state called as MP in the center of India. On the eastern side, you have Northeast India. On the western side, you have a state of Gujarat. On the upper side, you have Jammu Kashmir. On the bottommost side, you have Tamil Nadu and Kerala, right? So all these things are mentioned in the map. Map क्या बता रहा है? What thing is there in that particular set? So similarly now, unlike your physical map, which tells about the geographical places, this is a power map. This is a power map which tells the similar aspect with respect to the distribution of powers in a political system, right? Distribution of powers in a political system. Now, this power map, what it tells you about the distribution. Abhi, when we are talking about this keyword called as distribution, immediately the next thing which should hit your mind or which should knock your mind, sir, you are talking about distribution. But to distribute something, let's say you have, let's say I have 10 pens and I'll, whoever will be performing well, I'll be distributing among them. So for that distribution, there should be parties that should be available in whom I have to distribute. In this pen example case, you are the parties. Aapke beech mein these pens will get distributed. So here, if we're talking about this word called as distribution, sir, what are the parties to distribute? So in political system, what are the particular parties? ठीक है, what are the particular sets of individuals जिनमें हमें इस power को divide करना है? Or another keyword, this map is dividing the power, sir. This map is distributing the powers in the political system, sir. But it is dividing the powers between whom? This should be your next question, right? So if I say that this distribution is basically between the three basic organs of any political system or government. Three basic organs. जैसे आपकी body है, this is a political system. This body has different organs like hands. ठीक है, they have to perform in this situation while I'm teaching. Their hands have been ordered by this political system to write on the board. This mind has been ordered by this political system to do what? To think and teach you people. This tongue has been ordered by this political system that your power or your job is to speak what is being told by the mind. So here, what are those organs? The first organ we have is your legislature, sir. Legislature, sir. The first organ we have is your legislature. So the power distribution between legislature. The second organ we have, sir, is your executive. And the third organ we have is your judiciary. चलो अभी let's understand it in a layman term. फिर जाते हैं इन सब के तीनों के ऊपर. Imagine you all people are now sitting in a room, ठीक है, and you all belong to a let's say different background, you don't know each other. So there is one person who is feeling warm, okay, who is feeling that the climate is too hot, right? The AC should be, or the air conditioner should be switched on. There is another person who is telling that I am from Kerala, I am from deep south where there is too much hotness, and now I'm in Delhi. I'm not feeling that there is that amount of heat in Delhi. So the AC should not be switched off. Oh, sorry, switched on, right? Then there is another person. So the institute came and they said that, okay, you people have now studied for 3 to 4 hours. We want to give you refreshment. There will be some students who will say that, yeah, we want to eat samosas. Order samosas from us. There might be another group. No, samosas are very unhealthy or unhealthy for our health. We don't want to eat samosas. They'll cause us indigestion. We want a healthy Subway sandwich or a healthy sub. Okay. So there can be various disputes. Now, what if before you entered the class, we all people must have sat together, and by the process of voting, we would have decided that the AC should be switched off or the switched on. Let's say there are 10 people. Out of 10 people, 6 people said that the AC should be switched on. So the AC will be switched on. And the entire people have to follow because majority wants it. Then again, while before beginning the class, we had the voting on this eating thing as well. And by this eating thing, we reached on a consensus that sub is healthy. So majority of the students want sub. So the sub should be ordered. Then there will be no dispute. Right? So while we are making these rules and regulations before beginning of the class, so to make similar rules and regulations with respect to the political system, the power which was divided by the Indian Constitution, which was distributed by the Indian Constitution. So this distribution of power with respect to the making of rules and regulations for the Indian people, that how in an Indian political system the things should be run, will be done by this body called as your legislature. So its function is to make laws, rules, regulations. To make the laws, rules and regulations. To make the laws, rules and regulations. Let's now imagine another thing. Now, since the director sir came to make these rules and regulations, but he went away, वो तो चले गए rules बना के. The moment he was in the class, when the legislature was, let's say, in the class, you all people agreed that yes, 6 out of 10 have accepted that yes, we'll be doing this. We'll be switching on the AC. Moment he steps out, the 4 people rose and they again switched it off. So there should be someone present in the class who should be there to see that whether what was said by the legislature is being implemented or not. Right? Whether what legislature prescribed, right, is it being implemented by these people or not? So for that purpose, what is there? That purpose, the duty has been distributed by Indian Constitution in the Indian political system to this body called as executive, who execute the law. वो बोलते हैं ना motivational classes में कि what plans you make, you must be executing those plans. So what is executing? Doing them. So implementing them. So to implement the laws, rules and regulations, the duty has been distributed, or the power has been distributed in this map of constitution to this body called as executor. समझ गए? So let's move on to the third. Now let's assume here I am the executor. Being your teacher, I am here to execute the policies which were made by the director sir. He was the legislature. ठीक है, चल. Now 4 students who got up and switched off the AC. 4 students were there who got up and switched off the AC. Now, I blamed them that these were the 4 people, sir, who did not obey, and they switched it off again. But there might be a chance that you people, those 4 people in the class, just went near to the switch. The moment they were going to switch it off, the light went away and the AC got switched off automatically. They were not involved. But what did I perceive? That these were the 4 responsible who did not obey the order. Now, abhi kya aa gaya? Now there is a conflict. Someone is saying that you are faulty. Someone is saying, no, I'm not. So in this situation, whether the law has been implemented or whether the law has been violated, who will be the one who will be deciding this? In case there is a dispute, in case there is a difference of opinion between 2 parties, someone is saying I have done it, someone is saying I have not done it, we have the powers to decide. This dispute has been allocated to this 3rd organ, that is your judiciary, sir. Okay, so what does it do? It keeps check and resolves disputes. It keeps checks and it resolves the disputes. So these are your 3 different things. Let's understand it from another analogy now. Okay, is layman analogy say now we are shifting upon what? We are shifting upon the real example. That who are actually these individuals? Ye to political science ho gaya, sir. This was political science. You said that there would be actual implementation. We have to study Indian polity. We have to inculcate the dynamic aspect. Now let's inculcate dynamic aspect. Now legislature. How you have to understand it. System kya hota hai legislature ka? Legislature matlab to make the laws. Legislature means to make the laws. Abhi you were sitting in the class. Can anyone outside from this institution come to the class and make laws for you? The answer is no. The person from XYZ any other institute cannot come to the class and make laws and rules for you. नहीं कर सकता वो. फिर actual level पे भी क्या कोई भी उठ के आपके लिए law बना सकता है? क्या कोई भी आपके behalf पे decisions ले सकता है? The answer is no. Then in Indian constitution, who has been entrusted with this power? Are we the people of India for whom this Indian constitution is there, for whom this Indian constitution is dividing and distributing the powers? Are we somewhere involved in the lawmaking process? The answer is yes. So how are we involved then? देखो तो problem क्या है? India now, according to this recent report, India has a number of huge, largest population in the world. We overpassed China as well. Is it possible that all these Indians, around 1.4 billion Indians, could gather at a particular place and they can make laws? Can 1.4 billion people accumulate together? The answer is no. The answer is no. So we thought a beautiful way. We thought a beautiful way that how this procedure is going to run. We thought that we are so many people. Let's club these people. Let's club these people. Let's say 1.4 billion people. तो let's say hypothetically 10-10 लाख लोगों का एक एक ग्रुप बना दिया. We make a group of 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh ग्रुप बना दिया. ठीक है जी. Now out of these groups, हमने इन groups को बोला, we said these groups that you choose your one representative. You choose your one representative. Who you feel that this is a person from our group, right? This is a person from our group who can represent our concerns while making the law. Example, in the class we were making a law that the AC should be switched on or switch off. So that 4 individuals or the 5 individuals should elect one person. 5 individuals who were in the support that AC should not be switched on should elect their representatives, and then the voting should be between 2. So this process is followed. Now actual processes, what we do, we elect our MLAs, we elect our MPs. What are they? They are nothing but they are our representatives. We feel that whenever you people go to vote, now you are able to understand what you people are actually doing. Whenever you go to vote, You say that he is my representative. News में हमेशा सुना होगा, Rahul Gandhi is a representative of this very constituency. Narendra Modi ji is a representative of this very constituency. ठीक है, you people have this representative from your constituency. This is your MLA, this is your MP. They're what? They're nothing. They're the people whom you elected by giving them the vote, that yes, I feel this is the person who knows what concerns I have, and by keeping those concerns in mind, he can go to the legislature and can make rules for us, can make laws for us. And this is what parliamentarians, by sitting in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, are doing. This is what your MLAs, members of Legislative Assembly, by sitting in the Vidhan Sabha or the State Legislative Assembly, are doing. Alright, so the practical example of this is your MPs and MLAs. MPs and MLAs. Clear, sir? Then let's move on to the executive. Whenever we say the word executive, मतलब कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा इंसान who should be present on the ground level to check that whether the laws are being implemented or not. Right? यही था ना. तो MPs MLAs ने अभी सर बना दिया कानून. Law has been made. ठीक है. And law बना, let's say कि traffic rules का, traffic का rule बना. If there is a red light, so these parliamentarians said, if there will be a red light, it is your duty now. The law says that if there is a red light, you cannot move your car. You cannot move your car. But are these parliamentarians standing on the traffic lights to see that you are following the rule or not? The answer is again no. So someone should be there on the ground level. That should be the executor. Let's say that you went into Indian Police Services and the police is standing on the traffic lights. Now, whether you crossed or not has to be judged by whom? It's whose duty to make you implement that law. If the police officer is standing, you would not dare to cross that traffic light. And if it will not be there, you can cross it. You up karte ho roz, hai na? So, the example here can be of a policeman. Police services. ठीक है? Indian Police Services, Indian Administrative Services, IAS, Indian Revenue Services. So all those categories are what categories? What you are aspiring to become. You are aspiring to become the individuals who should be present on the ground level to implement the policies, to implement the laws, to implement the rules and regulations which have been made by these MPs and MLAs. Then let's imagine that policeman was standing at the traffic light. He said that, sir, this was a traffic signal. Right? Let me draw with another pen. And there was a red light. But this individual, even after seeing the red light, he crossed it. He crossed it. Now what should be done? A law has been made that traffic light, when it is red, it should not be crossed. But you crossed it. Traffic policeman saw you. Now what he will do? He will catch hold of you. Then, whether whatever the traffic policeman is saying is true or not, or let's say whether the traffic policeman is saying truth only. Truth only. Nothing in this world is absolute. Everything is relative. वो सच ही बोलेगा. He will tell only the truth. Is it possible ever? The answer is no. So, when the traffic policeman catch hold of you, then comes the another thing which keeps the checks and resolve the dispute, because you will always be like, sir, I have not jumped the traffic light. When I accelerated my car, the light I was able to see there was green light, sir, and not the red light. Was green light, sir. Traffic policeman say, no, when you were jumping the light was red. Now who will be able to check this? Whether you did something wrong, you should be punished, or you have not did anything wrong and you should not be punished. Right? Where this is the function of Indian judiciary. This is the function of Indian judiciary, and that you people must have heard abhi tak kahin na kahin se Supreme Court of India, High Court of India, या Court of India. Abhi bhi, whenever you have a dispute with your neighbors, what you tell them? Chalo, we court mein leke chalta hu tumhe. I'll bring you to the court. I'll sue you in the court of law. What is that doing? That is judiciary, sir. So all these things are there which have been gathered from this political science, but in the ground reality, to run a political system in a better way, to become an administrator. Now you understand why we need to study Indian polity. Indian polity also gathers the dynamic aspect. Now for you to become executive, that is the permanent executive. What is that? That is this what we call IAS, IPS, policeman. That's why our syllabus contains Indian polity, the static part as well as the dynamic part. Clear, sir? Now what is a constitution? Yeah. Now write down a definition for what is a constitution. Constitution is a or can be defined as a power map which defines the powers and functions of different branches of the government ठीक है जी. तो गवर्नमेंट की जितनी भी डिफरेंट ब्रांचेस होंगी, what is there to allocate and tell them what is their function, what is their power, that is your constitution. Clear, sir? Any doubt? No? I assume no. So let's move ahead. ठीक है सर. So let's first talk about this types of constitutions, and then we'll be moving on to this word called as constitutionalism. Okay, types of constitution. If I say that the various types of constitution, so the first category we had was that we can divide the constitutions on the basis of whether it is a written constitution or it is a unwritten constitution. Written constitution or a unwritten constitution, matlab the power map which was there, the map which was dividing the powers between the different branches of the government, right? Either it will be in a written format, that there will be a particular piece of paper where that is written, or it will be in an unwritten format, right? Now the keyword, the point or the knack here is that what does this meaning of word unwritten means here? What is the meaning of the word unwritten? Does the word unwritten here means that nothing is in the written form, and the countries which have unwritten constitution, everything is there in the minds of the people over there? Let's imagine an Indian constitution. Indian constitution is a huge thick book. Do you think if the Britain's constitution is an unwritten constitution, that thick book will be memorized by the entire population of UK? The answer is no, sir. The answer is no. Then my next question, or to put these words into a UPSC sensical question, is that, write it down, question: what is the only criteria, to say that a country has a written constitution? Again, have a 10 seconds thought provocation session. Hanji, how do you feel UPSC? What is UPSC? I would say you guys have made a tremendous, you guys are very brave. Honestly, you guys are really brave, and your family, your friends, your society should give you the utmost respect, because just jumping into this field of UPSC requires a huge courage. Honestly, it requires a huge courage, and you guys are doing a tremendous job. And trust me, irrespective of the results, irrespective of the results, once you are done through the entire syllabus of this UPSC journey, your perspective to see this entire world, I can give this to you in writing, is going to change. How you look at the things, how you perceive people, that in what sense they are talking to you, bolte na mind reading, all these things are going to become a cakewalk for you guys, right? So be proud of yourselves, and make your friends, family, whoever is in close touch of you, proud of yourselves, that they should be appreciating this courage of you to jump into this preparation. Even that is more than enough, right? Chalo. When we say that, what is the only criteria to say that a country has a written constitution? There is only one criteria. ठीक है, कईयों के दिमाग में अभी ये आया होगा, sir, in our NCERT classes we have studied that if we talk about written constitution, we have an example of our country called as India, and another example we have United States of America. तो ये दो country हैं, ठीक है. If we have talked about unwritten constitution, so the example we have, sir, is from Britain. But एक चीज, India has a written constitution. India has a written constitution. But while you were studying NCERTs, आपने कहीं ना कहीं पे you must have heard about this word called as conventions. What you have heard about this keyword called as conventions? What are conventions? Conventions means कुछ ऐसी practices, some practices which are nowhere written, but they are being followed from a long time in the Indian context or in the Indian political system, and hence we are following that as well. And hence we are following that as well. उसका मतलब होता है conventions. So this means that India also has unwritten constitution. Again the answer is no. Right? So here write down one line. इस क्वेश्चन को एड्रेस करने से पहले write down one line. No country in this world, no country in this world has an entirely written or an unwritten constitution. Has an entirely written or an unwritten constitution. Example, in Indian political system, other than the written constitutional provisions, we also follow some conventions. Bracket में लिखो conventions के unwritten rules and laws. Full stop. Now, ये तो हमने देख लिया Indian context. Now, let's move on to Britain. If we say that our criteria to say that the constitution is written, that there is a particular book which is there, right? And if there is one book, that will be written, and there is no book, there is unwritten. Let's say that we'll request the administration of this institution to book us flight tickets, and let's all move to Britain, which has an unwritten constitution. They do not have a book. What we are going to do, we'll collect all the rules, laws, regulations. If you feel that they'll not be in the written form, what we'll do, we'll ask people that you have memorized everything, or we'll ask the Judiciary of Britain that we are going to do you a favor. You have an unwritten constitution. Whatever you have in your memory, we'll write it down on a book and we'll hand it over to you. And let's each and every one of you make our names get noted in the history, in the books of history, that this batch of 2023-2024 were the ones who had written constitution for the country of Britain. Can it be possible? The answer is no. This is not possible. Then again we are coming back to the same question. What is the only criteria to say that a country has a written constitution? So write it down, sir. The only criteria to say that a country has a written constitution, is a particular constituent assembly has been constituted, and then the outproduct of that constituent assembly will be called as a written constitution. समझ लेते हैं इसको. What does it mean? It means that a constitution will be only called as a written constitution if, to make that particular constitution, the country of that very political system has made a constituent assembly. Constituent assembly, what is it? So it is an assembly of people. So people from various different backgrounds representing the people of India. जैसे आपके MP MLAs थे. Such people are brought together and they are then told that please write the rules and regulations for the Indian political system. When this practice is done, and after 2 or 3 years they end up finishing this particular work, the byproduct or the outproduct will be a book that has been made by the Constituent Assembly, which were nothing but the representatives of the people of India, or indirectly the people of India only. आपके MP MLAs जैसे लोग वहां पे बैठ रहे थे, who are your MP MLAs? They are your representatives. So if such activity will be done, and the byproduct of that activity will be called as a written constitution. Okay, so the only criteria to say that a country has a written constitution or an unwritten constitution is that it has to be a byproduct or an outproduct of the Constituent Assembly, which was particularly created for the creation of that constitution. Criteria is that it is a product of Constituent Assembly made for that purpose. All right, chalo, right? Chalo, my question for you is that let's answer this. If I say that no country, or UPSC puts a statement, no country has an entirely written or unwritten constitution, the answer would be yes. Okay, yeah, the answer would be yes. Wonderful. Chalo. Then let me write another thing. Can I rub this? Sure. Now let me make another question to you guys. And trust me, these are going to become very helpful while you are revising this. ठीक है, तो इसको do it in the question answer format. That would be perfect. If I ask a question, or UPSC puts you a statement, can there be any country without a constitution? Can there be any country, sir, which is there without a constitution? Can any country exist? Have a 10 seconds thought provocation session. Can there be any country without a constitution, sir? So, what did you think? Can there be any country without a constitution? Some people would have answered that, yes sir, there can be a country, and no sir, there cannot be a country. Right? Now, the people who are thinking that yes, there can be a country without a constitution, do you have any example in your mind? Do you have any example? One example which might struck your mind would be, sir, I have somewhere in songs and movies heard about this person called as Gaddafi. I've heard about this person called as Gaddafi, who was there in somewhere in Africa. Okay? So sir, he was a dictator. And you say that there is no country without a constitution. All countries will have a constitution. Right? How is that Gaddafi being a dictator, his country has a constitution? How is it possible? Now let me answer you guys. These are the things which UPSC is going to test. Whenever we talked about the definition of the constitution in the previous slide, we said what? It is a power map which distributes the powers between different branches of the government. Did we ever talk anywhere that branches should be of a democratic country only? That branches cannot be of a dictatorship only? We did not talk. Or let me give you another way of understanding this. Do you think if Gaddafi is the dictator of X country, whatever bad deeds are being done by the virtue of his dictatorship in that country will be only done by Gaddafi? The answer is no. There also, Gaddafi must have his team, one set of team who will be responsible to commit atrocities on people. There will be a different set of team or different branch of team of Gaddafi who would be responsible to exploit the economic resources of that country. And there will be a different branch of Gaddafi who will be telling that what people should do and what people should not do under dictatorship. What is this? This is again a map which is dividing the powers in the dictatorship as well. Right? So to run a government, to run a political system, that can be dictatorship, that can be democracy, that can be monarchy, everywhere there have to be certain branches which will be controlling. And hence, there cannot be any country in this world which will not have a constitution. Each and every country, despite of it being a democracy, monarchy, republic, dictatorship, etc., will have a constitution. Will have a constitution. Then why did you people got confused? You people got confused between written or unwritten constitution. Right? You think that if the constitution is unwritten, this means that constitution, there is no constitution. Nahin, constitution to rahega hi rahega. Otherwise, in Britain, we would not have called it anything. We say Britain has a constitution, but Britain has an unwritten constitution. And uska basis we did in the previous slide. What was the basis? That it was not a product of Constituent Assembly. Matlab, Britain mein, there was no point in the history of Britain that the people of Britain created a Constituent Assembly which made a constitution for them. And if we say that India has a written constitution, this means our Constituent Assembly was created back in the year 1946. And even if we take the example of United States of America, जो हमने last slide में यहाँ पे लिखा था, you can, without even knowing, this is how logical polity is. You don't need to cram it. If I say that I have categorized United States of America, let me see if I have rubbed it or not. Okay, so we have rubbed it. Let me. So we have categorized United States of America in the category of written constitution. So abhi tak you do not have any hint that whether there was any Constituent Assembly in America. And if I say America is a written constitution, can you easily have a connective relation that if United States of America has a written constitution, there must be a Constituent Assembly in the history of United States of America which would have been created or which must have been created back in the historical times to make the Constitution of United States of America. Can you infer this from that statement? The answer is yes. So this is how polity is logical. We don't know whether it was created or not, but if we say it has a written constitution, this means that definitely in some point of history, United States of America would have created a Constituent Assembly for itself to make a constitution. Okay, so here also the answer will be, can there be any country without a constitution? The answer is no. Okay, it might be written or unwritten, or written or unwritten maybe. No country has a entirely written or unwritten. The only thing which is going to make a difference, it is written or unwritten, is it is a byproduct of a constituent assembly. Clear, sir? Chalo, let's move ahead. Then we are on this next keyword called as constitutionalism. Okay. So I accept this fact that this word constitutionalism, almost every one of you, with the exception of one or two, would have heard it for the very first time. सबसे पहली बार सुना होगा यार. आज तक you have listened to these words like socialism, liberalism, fascism, nationalism. सुना है ना ये शब्द सारे? ये सुने होगा. दो. The common thing in all these words is the three alphabets. That is your ism. Nationalism. National is one word, ism is attached to it. Liberal is one word, the word ism is attached to it. Social is one word, the word ism is attached to it. Now, ism has something common. What is it? Let's find it out. So, aaj se, in fact, abhi se, wherever you find this word ism, so ism is a suffix. Ism is a suffix. This means that it is attached behind the word. And whenever it is attached behind any word or at the end of any word, it signifies that if there is a particular keyword, let's say constitution, and there is a word attached ism, this ism means that if this word was a constitution and now this word is taken together, now here this word constitutionalism will be explaining the ideology of the first word. So, ab se jahan pe bhi you see the word ism attached to it, this means that the word liberalism is signifying the ideology of being a liberal. The word constitutionalism is signifying the ideology of constitution. So, now what we are going to study here, that Indian people made the constitution for themselves. Now, what is the ideology of that constitution? What is the ideology of that constitution? Right? Or what is the ideology? मतलब क्या होता है? Ideal thing. What should be the ideal thing? Ideology. सबकी individuals की होती है. तो constitution की ideology क्या है? That we are going to look here. ठीक है, चलो. Now, whenever we talked about constitution, तो हमने क्या समझा था? What is this? This is nothing but a power map in which the entire laws, in which the entire bodies which are to make the laws, everything is written there, right? Everything is written there, right? So if constitution is something which contains the laws, right, or which contains the powers, so what does its ideology signifies? So its ideology of the constitution signifies that if I am the law, if Indian people have created me, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved, preamble में पढ़ते हैं ना, we the people have created this, and I am the supreme law of the land. So whose law, whose rule should be there? The rule should be of the supreme law. The rule of law. The rule of law. Constitution में what is there inside the constitution? Laws, sir. And what is the ideology of the constitution? The constitution says that if someone is going to rule in the political system of India, it should be the rule of law and not the rule of men. ठीक है? I am an individual. If I say that today onwards in India, what I say should be followed, that will be the rule of men. Rule of law means that entire rule, who is ruling the entire political system or territory of India, the rule should be of the rule of law. So law, what law says should be done in India. This is what you mean by rule of law. Rule of law. Why rule of law? Because constitution is the supreme law. So rule कौन करेगा? Who will be ruling? There should be the rule of the constitution itself. So that is what you mean by rule of law. इसका opposite भी देख लेते हैं. What is? अगर रूल लॉ का ना होता, ठीक है, अगर लॉ रूल ना कर रहा होता तब कौन कर रहा होता? देयर माइट बी सम डिक्टेटर रूलिंग, दैट विल बी अ रूल ऑफ मेन, but this has not to be there. Indian constitution says the rule has to be the rule of law. So constitutionalism means there should be a rule of law. Now what this rule of law means, what this rule of law means, how this will actually operate. This rule of law means that, understand, there is one thing called as government. If I say that in India today kiski government hai, whose government is it in India? You say BJP. BJP means the synonym word for that is Mr. Narendra Modi, Mr. Amit Shah, or the entire Mr. Jai Shankar. All these clubbed together are the government of the day. So now, the next question I ask you guys is, if they are the government of the day, how Indian political system should be working? Has or should it work according to the whims and fancies of the government of the day? Or should it work how Mr. Narendra Modi ji, how Mr. Amit Shah, how Mr. Jai Shankar, all these people want? Or should it run in accordance with this constitution, in accordance with the supreme law, in accordance with the law which was made by the Indian people itself? And why is it important? Who can rule me? Who can rule me? To whom I empower to rule me? To whom I empower to rule me? Who made the constitution? The Constituent Assembly, right? Who selected the Constituent Assembly? We the people of India told the members, हमें अपने members को elect करवाया, that yes sir, you are our representative. हम सारे नहीं जा सकते, same analogy. We are selecting you as our representative. You please go to the Constituent Assembly and you please set common laws for all of us. जैसे क्लास में हमने बनाया था AC चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, to have peace and harmony. जैसे हमने बनाया था we should eat a subway or a samosa, that were laws, and we said that. So who can rule us? The constitution which was prepared by us, we empowered it to rule us. ठीक है? So there should be a rule of law and not rule of men. That is, the government of the day should not be the highest body to decide how our country will run. It will always be decided by the constitution. So constitution means rule of law. Now what rule of law means? That there is a government which is there to do everything, legislate, execute and implement. But this government should also be under something. If this is government, there should be over and above this government to guide the government itself. And that is the constitution. This means that the constitution is supreme. If the highest body is supreme, the body lower than it should have certain limitations upon it. Right? So this rule of law means that the government has to be limited. Limited, or in other words, limited government. What does limited government means? That the government is not completely empowered to do whatever they want. They can do, but only with respect to whatever is told to them to do under the constitution. So government can do, but it has to take care that whether constitution permits me to do this or not. And if it do something which will be contrary to what is told in the constitution, who is there? Judiciary is there to keep a check. Okay? So this means a limited government. Constitution's ideology is rule of law. Rule of law means limited government. Now, how or what are the provisions in the Indian constitution which ensures the limited government, or which ensures the rule of law? So for that, to limit the government, we the people of India in the Constitution of India have given ourselves something called as fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. So the government is limited how? By the fundamental rights which are recognized in our Indian Constitution. So ये कैसे होता है? Let's say government is there and government of the day is doing something wrong. Let's say that you were living in a dictatorship in Gaddafi. Gaddafi was doing something wrong. Can you raise your voice against Gaddafi? कुछ लोग बोलेंगे yes sir. But the very next moment, the decision of Gaddafi will be to struck off your heads. Do you imagine a similar situation getting happened in India? The answer is no. And why if Gaddafi can do it, the Indian government cannot do it? Because here you have fundamental rights. If government will not respect your fundamental rights, judiciary is going to sue the government. फिर हम गवर्नमेंट को बोलेंगे आप मुझे बोलने नहीं दे रहे हो, चलो मैं आपको कोर्ट में लेके चलता हूँ. गवर्नमेंट, यू आर नॉट अलाउइंग मी टू स्पीक, आई विल सू यू इन द कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ. And for that purpose, the judiciary will ask you, you want to criticize the government and the government is not allowing you. But on what basis you are saying that I should be given the right to criticize the government? You will say, judiciary, sir, in my fundamental rights, I have freedom, azadi of speech, bolna, and to express myself, expression. I have my freedom of speech and expression. So this is how the government will be limited. Now, if you are speaking or criticizing the government will be well aware that the people are criticizing us. We should not do wrong. We should do whatever is written in the constitution. If we do and people keep on criticizing us, next time they will not be electing us to come into power. So this is the ideology of constitution. So what does constitution means? It means rule of law. What does rule of law means? That only the law is supreme and the government of the day has to be limited. That means limited government. And which is the provision, only provision, right? Highlight the keyword only. Only provision which limits the government. That is your fundamental rights. That is your fundamental rights. आपके fundamental अधिकार, right? चलो. Now, let us draw some analogies, or let's first write down what is constitutionalism. Write down what is constitutionalism. I'll dictate, and then we'll be doing the different analogies which we can deduct out of this keyword called as constitutionalism. So write down constitutionalism is the ideology of the constitution. Is the ideology of the constitution. Which means the rule of law. Which means the rule of law, and not the rule of a single man. The rule of a single man. Full stop. The rule of the supreme law. The rule of the supreme law means that the government, rule of the supreme law means the government of that particular political system, is limited. Bracket में लिखो limited government, bracket limited government, comma, which signifies that the government cannot act according to its own whims and fancies. Its own whims and fancies. It has to act in accordance with the power distribution structure. In accordance with the power distribution structure given by the constitution. Given by the constitution. Given by the constitution. Full stop. This signifies or this means the government is also under the law, under the law, under the law, full stop. It helps, it here signifies constitutionalism. Constitutionalism helps to check the arbitrariness of the government. What is arbitrariness? The things Gaddafi was doing in his country, right? To check the arbitrariness of the government. Full stop. The limited government which ensures rule of law, comma, is itself ensured by the only feature in the Indian Constitution, itself ensured by the only feature in the Indian Constitution known by the name of fundamental rights. Known by the name of fundamental rights. Put a full stop. In next write analogies to be drawn. Analogies to be drawn. First, constitutionalism signifies rule of law. Second, constitutionalism can only sustain in the rule of law. Write down analogy number 3. Constitutionalism means limited government. Then write rule of law means limited government. This next point. Rule of law means limited government. Then write next. Limited government is limited by fundamental rights. Government is limited by fundamental rights. And in the last right, fundamental rights ensure rule of law. Fundamental rights ensure rule of law. ठीक है, कोई डाउट? चलो, यूपीएससी इन एनालॉजीज में से एक स्टेटमेंट देगा विच हैज बीन योर प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन एज वेल. क्लियर? चलो अभी जाके प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन है सारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म के देखना. All will be derived from this analogy only. Clear? चलो. There might be some other points which will be appealing to your intellect that this may be right, but the precise point, what UPSC says, the most appropriate answer. Select the most appropriate, not correct. Most appropriate would be, everything will be correct. Out of all 4, all will be helping to sustain constitutionalism, but the exact word should be 3. The first being rule of law, second being limited government, third being your fundamental rights. Clear? Chalo sir. Then let's draw some other analogies. Shall I rub it? Chalo, we have a next slide. Lucky us. Write down. Constitutionalism. Is the feature only of democracy. Constitutionalism is the feature only of democracy. Constitution तो हमने बताया सर डिक्टेटरशिप में भी होगा एंड डेमोक्रेसी में भी होगा. अभी मुझे ये बताओ क्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म डिक्टेटरशिप में होगा? द आंसर विल बी नो. Constitution is a different thing. Constitution का ideology is something different. Ideology was rule of law. Rule of law dictatorship में तो था नहीं sir, नहीं था ना. So if I say constitutionalism is only the feature of democracy, the answer is yes. Write down the question, why? 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 And write down because only in democracy, the power lies with the people, क्योंकि government has to be limited in constitutionalism, and the government was limited by fundamental rights. This is what rule for the people, of the people, by the people. ठीक है, जहां पे लोगों का ही राज होगा, लोगों द्वारा ही राज होगा, लोगों के लिए ही राज होगा, वहीं पे तो लोगों को फंडामेंटल राइट्स मिलेंगे. And if people will have the fundamental rights, then only the government will be limited. And if the government, that is Gaddafi in the case of dictatorship, is limited, this will ensure whose law? Gaddafi's or law's rule? Rule of law, and that was ultimately your constitutionalism. Alright, so if I say that constitutionalism is the feature only of democracy, the answer is yes. Chalo. Now, if I made another analogy, that constitutionalism can be there without written constitution. Just think it. Constitutionalism, matlab there should be a rule of law, which means the government has to be limited. Matlab the people should be exercising their rights. Can constitutionalism exist in such countries which have a unwritten constitution? हो सकता है. लगाओ दिमाग. Understand. Again, have a 10-second thought provocation session. चलो अब बताओ. So constitutionalism, what do you mean? Rule of law, right? And what do you mean by rule of law? That there is a political system or a country where everything is being done in accordance with the law. There is no dictator who is ruling in accordance to his whims and fancies. But that country does not have a written constitution. Can it be there? Any example which is coming in your mind? The answer is yes. And the example we have is Britain. Is there any dictator in Britain? No. There is a proper parliamentary procedure. Even we took our parliamentary system from the system of Britain. Everything is being done in that manner. People elect their representatives. Everything is done, right? But Britain does not have a constitution, written constitution. So can constitutionalism prevail? The answer is yes. Rule of law हो सकता है. Constitution होना चाहिए. Written, unwritten, nothing will affect. ठीक है? Written, unwritten constitution is not going to make any effect that whether the ideology of constitutionalism is being followed by any country or not. We have the example of Britain. A written example we have of India, right? Chalo, write it down. It may be possible, or it can be possible. It can be possible that constitution, written constitution is there, but constitutionalism is not there. Constitutionalism is not there. For your crude understanding, write in example. Example, Gaddafi, the dictator, gets a written constitution made for his country, bracket close, full stop. Second, it can also be possible that written constitution is not there, but constitutionalism is there. Example, Britain, which does not have a written constitution, but follows the principle of constitutionalism. Full stop. All right. Sure. So this is there. Let's now move to the next thing, that is the second classification of the constitutions based on the fact that whether they are rigid or flexible. Now, for every categorization, we need to have a basis of that categorization. And what was our basis of the categorizing the constitutions into rigid and flexible? We read in the introduction. What was that? That is their amendment procedure. That was their amendment procedure, sir. Now, what do you mean by amendment procedure? Amendment procedure is, अच्छा ऐसा नहीं है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन चेंज नहीं होगा, ठीक है, नहीं तो हम लिखते कैन इट बी अमेंडेड और नॉट, ठीक है. इफ वी से दैट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज रिजिड और अ फ्लेक्सिबल, तो वी डिड नॉट से हियर दैट whether they can be amended or not. What did we say? Amendment procedure, मतलब amend तो होगा ही होगा. No country in this entire world is that mad that let's say there was this country who got its constitution in the year 1850, right? And no country's forefathers are that mad that they are not able to apprehend that in the coming 200 years to 50 years their country is going to develop and change, and the things or the norms or the rules which are required now, it may happen that they are to change. And they have, by the logic of this, they have not introduced the changing procedure of the constitution in the constitution itself, right? The only point of difference which has to be there is the amendment procedure or the changing procedure of the constitution. How tough is it or how easy is it? That's why the basis of classification of this, that the constitution is rigid or flexible, is the amendment procedure and not whether it can be amended or not. What is it? Amendment procedure. So let's first now look at what is amendment procedures or what are different amendment procedures present in the political science. Then देखेंगे इंडिया के ऊपर in the current Indian political system what are applicable on Indian context and on which provisions what system is applicable. ठीक है, चलो. Let's first see rigidity, right? Whenever we take the example of rigidity, for your purpose, always have a country called as United States of America. Always have example of United States of America. And whenever you are talking of with respect to the flexible constitutions, you need to have an example of a country called as Britain. You need to have in your mind the example of a country called as Britain. Okay? Chalo. Then next thing is that what about our own country, sir? That is India, right? Now the basis was amendment procedure, rigid USA. This means that something tough would be there, to amend United States Constitution. Second, Britain, something very easy would be there to amend this Constitution of Britain, right? What does this mean? Now relate this to the analogy of a person coming from home to Old Rajendra Nagar to study. Okay. Tough person was the one which was not able to acclimatize with the situations of ORN, right? And he went back to home. Easy was the one who was like, yes, my sole purpose is to study. My sole purpose is to crack this examination. I'll adjust. What if I do not have an air conditioner in my room? What if I'm not getting a milk and almonds in the morning from my mom? I'm getting a bare minimum to survive. I will survive and crack this examination. That is an easy procedure. Now, Indian constitution is a unique. Our forefathers were very intellectual. They said, let's do something. We'll have the best out of United States of America, because everything is relative. This also has its fault. This also has its fault. Our forefathers select the best out of all. They said, Indian constitution, what we'll do, if we have to classify it on the basis of amendment procedure, there will be some procedures, okay, to change whom you need easy procedure. And there will be some, or let's say if this is tough, wait. Put here tough, right? It will be easy for you to understand then, right? Tough provisions. And there will be some provisions in the Indian constitution to whom, if we want to change, we'll have easy procedure to them. Right? Now, there are some things which are fundamental to an individual. There are some things which are fundamental to an individual. I'll give you a very beautiful example. Let's say, ORN वाला example ही लेके चलते हैं. ठीक है? Now, one thing is that you decided at no point in my life how much stressed I am. I will not smoke or drink. I will not smoke or drink. Now you came to RN, you are very stressed. You take a stroll, there are these tea stalls. लोग चाय पी रहे हैं, साथ में सुट्टा मार रहे हैं. आपका मन किया, I am also stressed today. Mock test में I have not received good marks, so let's have one smoke. My friends say that इससे पीने से like your stress levels reduce, which is not scientifically proven. In fact, opposite happens, your anxiety levels increase. Okay, but you in the peer pressure, you said that let's change according to the times and exigencies. Mom, dad said that these things should not be done, but now I'm in stress, so I should do it. Right. So this is a fundamental change. You are now changing your basics. You are not acclimatizing, you are changing your basics. And if this basic is going to change, this will change you as a person. This will change the cultures, traditions, customs which your family was following since long. There was no ancestor in your family who has ever touched alcohol, and you are daily vodka, Smirnoff, this, that, chal rahi hai. Huh? So this will change your fundamentals. So the person should not be able to change his basic structure. The person should not be able to change his fundamentals. Such qualities in that person, the Constituent Assembly makers have said such qualities, if they have to be amended, a tough procedure would be required. So the rigid, if Indian Constitution has a blend of rigidity and flexibility, this means that the procedure to change those provisions which are fundamental to the individual or to the fundamental to the Indian Constitution will be amended by tough majority. Will be amended by tough majority. Majority, लेकिन एक और चीज, अगर you are totally new, majority किसकी? जब Constitution बन रहा था, when the Constitution was being made, what did we do? We chose our representatives who were making the decisions on our behalf, and they made the Constitution. And right now, the similar or the counterpart to them are the Indian parliamentarians. We are electing them that go sit in the parliament, make laws on our behalf. Now they are the ones who on our behalf will be voting. Right? जैसे class में you people were voting, on our same behalf those people will be voting that this change should be made or not. So if that change will involve a fundamental difference, a fundamental change in the Constitution which our forefathers have perceived during in the Constituent Assembly, if that will be a fundamental change, the procedure to change it would be very tough. Okay? And if it is a normal day-to-day change, that can be amended by easy procedure. That can be amended by easy procedure. Now let's see what are the tough provisions mentioned. Okay, what are the tough amendment procedures, and what are the easy amendment procedures? What are the easy amendment procedures? अच्छा ठीक है जी, चलो let's move. चलो, before this, from next class onwards, buy one thing, that is a Bear Act. ठीक है, Bear Act means the original copy of Indian Constitution. In the market it will be available by the name of this PM Bakshi. PM Bakshi, ठीक है. There's two versions, one is a larger version, one is a smaller version. Larger version is not at all required for you, ठीक है. Our requirement is fulfilled by that smaller version. इतना सा पतला सा किताब होगा and white and maroonish color का, ठीक है. It will be written Indian Constitution. It is also called as a Bear Act. It is by PM Bakshi, ठीक है. So buy that before coming to this next class. All right. चलो, अभी let's discuss this amendment procedure. So let's first understand what is this amendment procedure, where it is required, है ना. So when we talk about this amendment procedure, this means that let's understand in layman terms and relate it to that class analogy as well, है ना. तो class में क्या था, when we were going to take the decisions, तो we felt that everyone has to sit in the class for, let's say, the month of June and July. And we were to decide whether the AC has to be switched on or not. Right? It was a major decision with respect to 2 months. So we should at least ensure that to take this decision or to initiate this meeting, a substantiate amount of persons who are to sit for next 2 months should be present. Right? कम से कम सब्सटैंशिएट अमाउंट के बंदे प्रेजेंट तो हों टू टेक दिस डिसीजन, एंड दिस इज फॉलोड इन दिस कंटेक्स्ट ऑल्सो. ठीक है, तो आइडियली होता क्या है, दिस अमेंडमेंट प्रोसीजर टेक्स प्लेस वेयर इन द पार्लियामेंट. पार्लियामेंट, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय पार्लियामेंट? पार्लियामेंट मीन्स योर लोकसभा and Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. What do you mean by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? Nothing. It is a place where the people you elect thinking that we all cannot go. These can be our representatives who can show our concerns at the national level. जब सारे नेशन के लिए लॉ बन रहा हो तो हमें उस लॉ से क्या कंसर्न है. व्हेन द लॉ इज बीइंग मेड फॉर द एंटायर नेशन, व्हाट कंसर्न्स डू वी हैव विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दोज लॉज शुड बी पुट फॉरवर्ड ऑन द टेबल बाय दिस वेरी सिंगल पर्सन, बिकॉज वी ऑल कैन नॉट गो एंड वी फील दैट दिस पर्सन कैन रिप्रेजेंट अवर आइडिया. So such persons who you feel are to represent the idea of you as an individual, लोगों का idea, लोक सभा, to the representatives of the people, when they sit together, that sitting together is called as a sabha. लेकिन वो किसकी है? लोगों की सभा. Why? Because those are the representatives of people. आपको रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, so this is लोकसभा, जो आप टीवी में देखते हो ऐसे करके सभी जगह बैठे होते हैं लोग चेयर्स पे. यहाँ पे एक टेबल लगा होता है, वहां पे एक स्पीकर बैठे होते हैं. तो दिस इज योर लोकसभा सर. देन व्हाट इज राज्यसभा? अभी आपको पता है इंडिया में एक सेंटर है, एक स्टेट है. एक स्टेट होता है जैसे देयर इज पंजाब, हरियाणा, एमपी, यूपी, राजस्थान, बिहार, झारखंड, छत्तीसगढ़. दीज आर स्टेट्स, बट देयर इज वन सेंटर ऑल्सो जिसको दिल्ली बोलते हैं, है ना. तो दिल्ली में देयर इज पार्लियामेंट. सो देयर इज अ सेकेंड प्रोविजन वेयर द स्टेट्स, इंडिविजुअल स्टेट्स, अभी these states are part of Indian Union. So when India as a together will be making laws, these states also have to make sure that when the laws are being made for us as states, है ना, तो our concerns should also be put forward. So these states also sent their representatives, right? वो कैसे होता है? We'll see in Parliament chapter. अभी के लिए these Rajya Sabha contains people. These are also MPs. Why they are called MPs? Both are MPs only, but they are called MPs of Lok Sabha, MPs of Rajya Sabha. Why are both called MPs? because they are members of parliament and parliament contains Lok Sabha also, Rajya Sabha also. पार्लियामेंट में लोकसभा भी है, राज्यसभा भी, डिटेल में बाद में समझेंगे, अभी सिर्फ जस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड द अमेंडमेंट प्रोसीजर. सो राज्यसभा has members of parliament which are representing the interest of an individual state. There will be certain MPs from Punjab, but those MPs from Punjab, in the case of Rajya Sabha, will be representing the interests of Rajya. Rajya means state. They are representing the interests of states. And here, they are also MPs from Punjab, but they are representing the interests of the people of Punjab, Lok of Punjab. And together, when they sit from different states, their sitting is called as Sabha. So ये Lok Sabha है. And this Sabha is called as Rajya Sabha, where the interests of the states are getting represented. ठीक है, यहाँ पे लोगों के concerns अभी समझो. Let's say this was our class. तो अभी ये लोकसभा क्लास ही है ना, जहाँ पे decisions are to be made. जैसे हमारी क्लास में we have to make the decisions. This लोक सभा is a class as well. ठीक है, तो how the things have to be initiated. हमने बोला कि if there is something which has to go on for 2 months, we should at least ensure that substantiate amount of students should be sitting in the class before taking a decision. Similar thing in the context of Lok Sabha, that ensuring a substantiate amount of students should be there before initiating a meeting to take decision on that AC thing is called as your quorum, sir. Quorum मतलब मीटिंग शुरू होने से पहले जिस मीटिंग में वोटिंग होगी, for the meeting to begin on the meeting on which the decision has to be taken, before it begins, substantiate amount of people have to be ensured. Substantial amount of MPs have to be ensured. And in the case of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that substantiate amount is 1/10. 1/10. ठीक है जी, let's say that Lok Sabha's strength is 550. Actually ये होता है, पर इस एग्जाम्पल को समझने के लिए, और लेट्स से क्वारम कितना चाहिए हमें लोकसभा के लिए, ऑफ 55 मेंबर्स. तो if 55 members would be there, so this meeting will start, in which meeting we are going to decide that the constitution's this provision should be changed or not. All right, now how many members are required? How many members should be saying yes to bring a change are the two things which are going to decide. लिख लो, how many members should be present and how many members are going to say yes to enforce a particular change in the constitution are going to be our two criterias to decide the entire amendment procedure. Are going to be our two criterias. चलो अभी let's see, quorum चाहिए हमें 1/10 का. ठीक है, this means if Lok Sabha has a strength of 550 and Rajya Sabha roughly has a strength of around 250, so to initiate a changing procedure in Lok Sabha we need 55 members, sir. And यही चीज राज्य सभा में कितने चाहिए होंगे, 25. तो यहां से तो सर अपनी मीटिंग शुरू हो जाएगी, our meeting can start. ठीक है, इतना समझ आया. अभी क्वारम है, so the class में substantial amount has been ensured, now the meeting will start. अभी मीटिंग में for different provisions different majority. Majority means different yes. कितने लोगों का हाथ चाहिए खड़ा हुआ, ठीक है, yes I am in the view or I am in favor of the opinion, this should be changed. So that we are going to discuss now. ठीक है, shall I rub it? चलो, so let's see what are the amendment procedures. ठीक है, और the types of majority required, but they have to fulfill one basic criteria, that is a quorum. Which is 1/10 of total membership. ठीक है जी, this is the substantial amount of students required in the class to take decision with respect to the air conditioner, which has to be there for 2 months. चलो, the first kind, sir, that we have is your simple majority. This means that the procedure number 1 will be easy And second, this is flexible and similar to that followed in Britain. Similar to that followed in Britain, sir. Okay, chalo. Now let's see what is it. The keyword with respect to this thing, simple majority, is that 50% of the members to be present plus voting. 50% of the members should be present and voting, sir. Right? Now you know, to initiate a meeting, class may that to take that decision on that particular day, to initiate a meeting, how many substantial members we required? 1/10 of the total house. So let's say Lok Sabha, which has a strength of around 500 and let's say 50, right? 550. Out of that, how many members? If 55 would be present, the meeting can start. The meeting can start. Clear? Then out of this 55, what is the criteria now? The meeting has been started. What is the next criteria to define simple majority? So meeting start hua. If we want to amend simple majority, the criteria is 50% of the members should be present plus voting. Out of this 55, what would be 55% plus 1? 50% of the members should be present. So this means that around, let's say 28 members, right? 28 members. Should be present and they should be voting also, right? And when these 28 members vote, how many yes we want? We want 14 plus 1, that is your, we need at least 15 yes. That is your 14 plus 1 yes. 14 plus 1. ठीक है जी? So this is required, 15 yes is required. So this is what you mean by simple majority. See that out of 550 of the total members, even if the 15 members of the house say that this change has to be brought, this is what you mean by simple majority, sir. This is what you mean by simple majority. Note down the example. Example, Article 3. Article 3. Note it down. To create a new state. To create a new state. The constitutional provision of Article 3 which is with respect to the creation of new state, can be amended with simple majority. Can be amended with simple majority. Chalo. Let's deal with next type of majority, that is your effective majority. That is your effective majority. Then we'll be dealing with absolute majority. And at last we'll be dealing with special majority. I don't have space. If you have a space in your page, so you can write it here only. Otherwise, I am dealing with the effective majority in next slide. Let's write here, sir, effective majority. ठीक है, चलो. Whenever we talk about effective majority which is required to amend the Indian Constitution, there we mean that we require a majority. Majority तो हमें चाहिए, पर कितने बंदों की majority? What is the criteria? That is 50% plus 1. यहाँ पे भी require 50% plus 1, but of whom? इसका of effective strength. of the house. Effective strength of house. What does this means? Effective strength of the house means that wherever this word is effective, this means total strength minus vacancies. Total strength minus the vacancies. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Vacancies means that if the total capacity of the house is 550, how many seats are vacant at particular point of time? Kitni seats ki vacancy hai? Let's say 5 seats were vacant. So this means the effective strength of the house is 545. So here we have to count the majority from 545. Here we have to count the majority from 545. And this kind of majority is used to decide the purpose that whether we have to remove the speaker, right? Whether we have to remove the vice president or not. ठीक है, तो ये examples note कर लीजिए. Then write it down. Effective majority means the majority, put it in bracket, 50% plus 1, 50% plus 1 of the effective strength of the house. Of the effective strength of the house. Full stop. Effective strength means total strength of the house, minus the vacancies, ठीक है. चलो, example is removal of speaker and vice president. Shall I rub it? Chalo, let's move on next. That is your absolute majority. That is your absolute majority. Now what do you mean by absolute majority? When we say absolute majority, it means again majority कितना चाहिए? We need majority of 50% plus 1. But किसका? Of whom? This is going to decide the difference between effective and absolute one. Effective में we required the majority that is 50% plus 1 of effective strength of the house. In that example, if 550 में से 5 seats are vacant, we have to have a 50% plus 1 of 545. Right? In this 50% plus 1 of what? Of total strength of the house. Of total strength of the house. This means we do not care with respect to vacancies. Right? If out of 550, 5 seats are vacant, no problem. Let 545 people vote. But I require the majority of, or I require the majority out of 550 only. Right? In this example only, in effective, let's say in effective majority is required and absolute majority is required. And in both these examples, the strength of the house is 550. Strength of the house is 550. But in effective, we have to subtract the what? Let's say vacancies. And let's here say that the vacancy was 10. So in effective kitna hua? 540. Now 50% plus 1 of 540 has to be counted here. But here, let's say there was vacancies and vacancies number was 10. This 10 will not be subtracted. Even if 540 in reality are voting, but majority kitno ka chahiye? Of 550 only. Even 540 people are voting. We are not concerned about the respect to vacancies. Majority kitna? 550. Matlab, if this is happening, we need the majority of, let's say, 260, right? No, we required the majority of 270 plus 1. That is 271 votes would be required to pass it with the effective majority. And here how many would be required? We'll be requiring around 275 plus 1 irrespective of this. That is 276 would be required. So this is your difference between absolute majority and effective majority. Okay, sir. Chalo, note it down. Absolute majority means 50% plus 1, 50% plus 1 of the total strength of the house, of the total strength of the house. Full stop. This kind of majority, put in inverted commas, is not mentioned anywhere, in the Indian Constitution. Inverted commas close. In the Indian Constitution. Okay? So this kind of majority is nowhere. This is the only majority which is not mentioned. Okay? Aage jaake, when you will be proceeding, so there is this fundamental book with respect to this subject called as M. Lakshmikant. And you will, when you will come to ORN, you will hear your seniors, Lakshmikant to बहुत गलत है, लक्ष्मीकांत में बहुत कुछ गलत लिखा है, this and that, you know? But that is not fully correct, I would say. Why? Because we did effective majority. The one example, when you will ask them, why Lakshmikant is incorrect, they will say the vice president में he says this effective majority is not there in Indian Constitution. तो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का कुछ हिसाब किताब कुछ ऐसा है कि it classifies the majorities into two things only: simple and special. Simple and special. So हमने पूछा what is Indian Constitution, what is simple according to you, what is special according to you? It said simple is the one which needs the majority of 50% plus 1 of the members present and voting. Other than that, you name any majority, whether it is effective, whether it is absolute तो चलो mention ही नहीं है, or it is other kind of special majorities which we are going to cover in the next slides. All those are special with respect to Indian Constitution. So we asked what will be the precise definition in Indian Constitution. If UPSC asks you what we are going to say. So it said that all majorities, write it down, the definition of special majorities in the Indian context. All majorities other than the simple majority. All majorities other than the simple majorities are considered as special majorities in the Indian Constitution. Are considered as special majority in the Indian Constitution. Okay. So now, what Lakshmikant ji has to say? Lakshmikant ji says that for the removal of vice president, कि हमारे एक vice president होते हैं, उनको हटाना हो, if we want to remove that vice president, what kind of majority do we need? Lakshmikant ji says that effective majority, and people say it wrong. Abhi, what is it? It is just another synonymous. Indian Constitution says to remove a vice president. Open your notes of effective, वहाँ पे note कर लो. To remove a vice president, we need a majority of all the members then present. We need a majority of all the members then present, which in practicality is nothing but effective majority. What do you mean by all the members then present? This means that total strength minus the vacancies. So if we talk in political science terms, that majority is what? Effective majority. But if we talk in Indian polity or Indian constitutional terms, effective majority as a theory is there, but that is not named as effective majority, because in Indian Constitution all the majorities other than simple will be special majorities, right? So effective is also a kind of special majority. Why special? Because some special procedure is required, and that procedure, it is just a change of words. Indian Constitution, Indian polity में that thing is majority of all the members then present, which is itself in itself nothing but effective majority only, right? But Indian Constitution के हिसाब से it is a special majority. To understand in layman terms, Indian Constitution में if you eat, ठीक है, if you eat muscles and tissues of any other thing which is living, you are a non-veg, right? Or let's say in Indian Constitution, what is veg and non-veg? Indian Constitution is veg is which is plant-based. Anything other than plant-based diet would be non-veg. right? अभी उसमें लक्ष्मीकांत जी says that for vice presidential removal or like to eat on Sundays or Wednesdays you can eat shrimp, right? But Indian constitution के हिसाब से shrimp is not a category, it is a non-veg only, right? So Lakshmikant ji says that in place of Thursday or Friday, what you can eat chicken, but chicken is also something which is non-veg. Lakshmikant ji is not wrong. ठीक है? In practicality, what is it? In Indian Constitution, special majority. उस वाली special majority में हो क्या रहा है? Which political science में which is effective majority. So this is the only difference. ठीक है? चलो, let's understand it in a better way. So special majority, when we talk in the Indian context, sorry, let's rub it only. Shall I rub it? Chalo. Let's note down now special majorities. Special majorities means something will be related or something will be very tough to achieve. Second, something of United States of American trend. ठीक है? Let's now come to the first type of special majority. मतलब ज़्यादा बंदों की yes चाहिए. We need a yes of more people, right? So how many are required? This has different cases. The first case of special majority in the Indian context, understand it as effective majority only. So effective majority in Indian context is called as special majority because Indian Constitution में effective majority says, effective majority का other synonym is majority of all the members then present, which is nothing but in itself a effective majority, or Indian Constitution a special majority. Chalo. Second, in this we need the majority that is that 2/3 of members should be present plus voting. 2/3 of the members should be present, right? ठीक है? इसमें 550 का calculation would be difficult. Let's take 100 members, sir. ठीक है? Out of 100 members, 2/3 of the members should be present. This means that 66 should be present. And out of this 66 should be voting itself. And now what is the majority required? Majority required would be how much, sir? That is 66 ka half would be 33 plus 1. That will be 34. So this is the first kind of special majority, which means 2/3 of the members should be present as well as voting. So if 34 members vote yes out of 66, the decision will be passed. So this is used for article number. Just note down the article numbers here. We'll discuss them in detail. 249 and article number 312. समझ लो वैसे बेसिकली 249 क्या है. ठीक है? अगर पार्लियामेंट वॉन्ट्स कि वो स्टेट्स के लिए कोई रूल बनाए, कैन इट मेक? द आंसर इज यस, बट ओनली इन वन सिचुएशन. इफ राज्यसभा स्टेट्स का जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव थे, दे पास अ रेजोल्यूशन, मतलब ये चीज पास करते हैं इस वाली मेजोरिटी से. Yes, we are the people and we want that in the national interest, देश के इंटरेस्ट में, in the national interest, parliament should be making now a law for the states, then it will be done. It is done under article 249. Otherwise state अपने law खुद बनाते हैं, parliament अपने law खुद बनाते हैं. ठीक है? States make their laws on their own, union or parliament makes their law for the center. ठीक है? Then comes article 312. This is your all India services, the exam which you are preparing for. In case, let's say we have an exam for all India administrative services IAS, all India police services, Indian that is IPS, all India revenue services, that is IRS. Next tomorrow we want a similar service, that is your all India judicial services, right? How we'll be able to bring that? For that we need to make a change in article 312, and how that change will be brought? If out of 250 members of Rajya Sabha, 2/3 will be present and voting, and out of them we then require a majority. ठीक है sir? चलो. Then we are on third example, sir. third type is which is mentioned under Article 368. Which is mentioned under Article 368. Let's rub it. Shall I rub it? Noted? Article, third type of special majority is your Article 368. So if you ask me that one particular provision, sir, please tell us one particular provision which our constituent assembly members added in our constitution, whose only work is to tell us how to amend the constitution. I would say that is 368. अगर कोई ऐसी एक स्पेसिफिक प्रोविजन है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में जो स्पेसिफिकली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की अमेंडमेंट की बात करे, वो आर्टिकल 368 है. ठीक है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कैन बी अमेंडेड इन अदर वेज ऑल्सो, बट वन प्रोविजन विच explicitly carries the provisions or the procedure how to amend the provisions of constitution, that is Article 368, and iska procedure is mentioned in Article 368 itself. On which provisions of the constitution the procedure of Article 368 will be applied, that is also mentioned in Article 368. So procedure mentioned, yes. Provisions कि संविधान की ऐसी कौन सी प्रोविजंस हैं जो हमने करा था रिजिड एंड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी वाली, ठीक है, ड्रिंकिंग एंड स्मोकिंग वर्सेस एडजस्टिंग योर ब्रेकफास्ट, which are the provisions which require Article 368's procedure because it is tough. Those provisions are also mentioned in this article only. These provisions are also mentioned. Now what is the procedure? What is the provisions that we'll deal when we'll be explicitly doing the amendment chapter? Right now we are just considered with respect to the procedure, but abhi you can easily draw the analogy that if the procedure required is tough, the provisions which will be there in 368 must be fundamental to our constitution. ऐसी provisions होंगी which are very basic to our constitution, right? चलो, now let's look at the procedure. In Article 368 we are required to fulfill two procedures simultaneously. We are required to fulfill the two procedures simultaneously. Number one, out of the total strength of the house, 2/3 members should be present plus voting. Now you will be like, sir, ये तो पिछले वाला ही हो गया, this is same as before, what is the difference? So this means that out of 100, 66 should be present and voting. How many we have? 66. But in the previous slide, right, in the second case of special majority, 66 में से कितने बंदों की हाँ चाहिए थी? 50% plus 1, that was 34. But this is not the case with respect to 368. In 368, even the 2/3 members are present and voting. This means even the 66 members are present and voting. Majority required is 50% plus 1, but not of present and voting, not of 66. Then of whom? Of total strength of house. Of total strength of house. This means that even if 66 are voting, the total strength of the house was 100. 100 का majority, 100 का 50% 1 would be 50 plus 1, that is 51. All right, that will be 51. So even if 66 are voting, we still, out of 66 we need 51 yes. Is it tough? Right? So this is Article 368. And then we are on, finally, noted, or either pause it or note, right? I'll rub it out. Chalo, right? Then we are on the last thing, and the example for this 368 is removal of judges. ठीक है, एक तो हमने करा था कि the provisions mentioned in 368, so 368 procedure will be applied only on the provisions which are mentioned in 368 itself. Plus one more thing, sir, that is removal of judges. अभी के लिए just associate 368 कहाँ removal of judges कहीं पढ़ा था. When we will be doing judiciary, then we will be understanding the logic, right? So 368 judges हमने करा था. Judiciary is the third pillar. It has Supreme Court, High Court. Who sits there? Judges. Now sitting के लिए there is a procedure. How someone will reach Supreme Court, how someone will become a Supreme Court judge, there is a procedure. But there is a procedure to remove that also. And what is that procedure? This procedure. That in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, 2/3 of the members are to be present on the day on which the decision has to be made that whether the judge of this High Court or Supreme Court has to be removed or not. And then out of those 2/3 members, 50% plus 1 of the total strength of Lok Sabha, that will amount about 226 members, should vote yes. And in Rajya Sabha, it will amount about 126 members should say yes. Only then the judge of the Supreme Court and High Court can be removed. Alright, chalo. Let's talk about the fourth kind of special majority in the Indian Constitution. When we talk about the fourth kind of majority, this is the toughest majority in the Indian Constitution. Toughest. And which kind of special majority it is? In this special majority, we again need 2/3 majority. Irrespective of the members present in voting, हमें कितने बंदों की yes चाहिए? We need 2/3 members saying yes. 2/3 members of what but? 2/3 members of total strength of house. Of total strength of house. 2/3 member of total strength of the house. This means that in this situation, even if 66 are present and voting, we do not need 51, which was required for 368. Here we require out of 100 at least to remove Indian president. We require 66 saying yes. Out of 100, 66 should now be voting yes. पहले में 66 should be present and voting. Out of them 51 yes would have been solved. यहाँ पे out of 100, 66% should be saying yes, this can be removed. Yes, this can be removed. What can be removed? The Indian president. Indian president. And this is mentioned under Article 61. And write it down, it is a toughest majority. Toughest majority. ठीक है, write it down. Under Article 368, which specifically deals with the amendment of the Constitution, two conditions are to be dealt with simultaneously. Two conditions are to be dealt with simultaneously. नीचे लिखो condition number 1. 2/3 of the members means 2/3 of 550 should be present plus they should be voting as well. Condition number 2. Out of 2/3 members who were present as well as voting, we require the yes of 50% plus 1 people, 50% plus 1 members, or 50% plus 1 members, ब्रैकेट में डाल दो 50% plus 1 of total strength of the house, all right, full stop. This kind of majority is used under Article 368 or is used for the provisions mentioned under Article 368. and also for the removal of judges, and also for the removal of judges. Write down next. The fourth kind of special majority in the Indian Constitution, the fourth kind of special majority in the Indian Constitution is the one which is required for the impeachment of Indian president, is required for the impeachment of Indian president, and thus is mentioned under Article 61, is mentioned under Article 61, full stop. According to this majority, two-third members of the total strength of the House, two-third members of the total strength of the House should be saying yes in order to impeach the Indian president. In order to impeach the Indian president. That if out of 100, 66 members का तो हमें yes ही चाहिए to remove him. ठीक है जी, चलो. Then lastly, there can be one question with respect to जैसे when you draw it. So let's say this is the Indian context. ठीक है जी. So Indian context में the constitution can be amended. Make a chart at the end. Can be amended. ठीक है. Now amendment can follow two procedures which we did. One can be rigid, another can be flexible. When we say flexible, draw two lines. Right here, verbally. Flexible means it can be amended by verbally. And the second can be voting. In voting, the constitution can be amended by simple majority, the first kind of majority which we did. Okay? In rigid, the one way only is by voting. Okay, ji? And voting mein we have 4 different types. That is your type 1, type 2, which we did, type 3, and last we have type 4. Okay? Type 1 mein, right, aka in political science or theory, in political theory also called as effective majority. But in Indian context, any majority other than simple would be special only. So this is a special majority, type 1 in Indian, that is effective majority. Kaun se wala? When we use it for the removal of vice president. Now we have dealt all these aspects, only one is left, that can Indian constitution be amended verbally? Can any change be there in the Indian constitution verbally? So the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. Drawn? Shall I rub it? Chal. Verbal change. Let's talk about verbal change, and we'll be doing a case study with respect to this. Chalo. So when we say this word, this verbal change, this in the Indian constitution is known by the context of voice voting, sir. Voice voting. ठीक है, सबसे पहले कुछ क्वेश्चंस में डील करते हैं. ठीक है. Is it mandatory in the Indian constitution to have the votes recorded for each and every matter? Votes, voice voting versus votes recording. Votes recording means vote डालना, जैसे आप लोग डालने जाते हो. That is votes recording. Voice voting is saying just yes, I and no. Yes in parliamentary form is called as I. ठीक है. Is it mandatory? Is it mandatory? The answer is no. The answer is no. Votes recording in Indian Constitution is not mandatory. It is mandatory only in few circumstances, and that are your circumstances where special majority is required. Where special majority is required. Only in those circumstances. Example लिख लीजिए यहाँ पे. Example your article number 368. Only in those situations voice recording is mandated. Earlier, whatever, other than that, whatever is a preferred phenomena, that is called as your voice voting, sir. ठीक है? चलो. What is done in voice voting? At the first level, what is done? So the speaker says, the ones with I, that who wants that this should be brought, this thing should be brought, a particular motion should be introduced, this change should be brought, should say I. And then he asks, the ones who don't want it say no. ठीक है? सबसे पहले I बोलेंगे सब चला के, then सब चला के बोलेंगे no. The one out of two which will be louder, whose voice was louder when he was asking yes or when he was asking no? The one procedure which is followed normally in the classrooms. It is followed in the parliament also. Right? Louder will be decided by the speaker. Let's say the people I, when they said I, was louder. So the decision is yes, this change has to be brought, this thing has to be brought. Right? Now, what if speaker is not able to judge? Can the MPs demand second level? So what is the second level? Right? So if we talk about second level, the MPs can exercise their right. It is right of MPs. ठीक है? यहाँ पे याद रखना, it is a right of MPs to tell the speaker that in simple majority or simple things also, they want their votes to be recorded. To be recorded. Any example for this, sir? Write down an example. Recently, Mr. Owaisi, or parliamentarian Mr. Owaisi, exercised this right and called for a division on the introduction of triple talaq bill, that the triple talaq bill should be introduced or not. ठीक है? Parliament में speaker has asked, I वाले हाथ खड़े करो. So they said I. Speaker got confused. Then Mr. Owaisi said that the both who are saying I and both who are saying yeah, I वाले, है ना? Let's say this is a parliament, तो इनको divide. This is a speaker. I वाले इधर आ जाओ, yes वाले इधर आ जाओ. Raise your hands would be counted. Right? So this is called as division. I side and no side. So this is a second level. So these procedures are not at all important. What I wanted to explain you is that even the changes or the decisions in the parliament can be brought by voice voting, sir. They can be brought by voice voting, sir. ठीक है जी? They can be brought by voice voting. So note it down. Note down this phenomenon. Voice vote is the preferred method of decision making. By the Indian Parliament. Full stop. Second line. MPs in favor of a decision. Call out I. AYE. And those opposed say noes. NOES. Say noes. Full stop. Next line. The speaker then takes a call. The speaker then takes a call on which voices are louder, on which voices are louder, on which voices are louder, and subsequently conveys the decision, and subsequently conveys the decision of the house, that what the house has decided, yes or no. That is next point. The rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, the rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, when we said that it is mandatory, so it is not mandatory under rules of procedure of Lok Sabha. What is rules of procedure? That there was this thing, humne kara, this power has been divided by the constitution between three: legislature, executive, judiciary. The legislature has got the power, but how it has to exercise that power, some rules with respect to that exercising of power in the legislation field only, that is making the law fields only, right? That how they have to make a law, some things we will be following, these steps will be following, that are called as rules of procedure. So rules of procedure of Lok Sabha do not mandate that if they have to make a law तो उस पे voting ही होना चाहिए, ठीक है? Voting should be done. चलो, right? Rules of law, rules of procedure of Lok Sabha do not mandate recording of votes of MPs, recording of votes of MPs for every decision, full stop. Voice vote does not reveal the individual positions taken by the MPs, the individual positions taken by the MPs, full stop. Next line. MPs also have the right, MPs also have the right to ask for the vote of every MP to be recorded, to ask for the vote of every MP to be recorded. This is called a division. This is called a division. I and no, यहाँ speaker बैठेगा, ठीक है? I and no. MPs can vote in favor, comma, MPs can vote in favor, comma, oppose, comma, oppose, or abstain from voting, or abstain from voting, full stop. Next line. Recording of votes, recording of votes, recording of votes is also mandated, when there is a constitutional, requirement for a special majority. Also को cut the also word from there, also को काट दीजिए. Recording of votes is mandated when there is constitutional requirement for special majority of parliament. Example, constitutional amendment. When there is a constitutional requirement for a special majority of parliament. Example, article 368. Or after a no confidence motion. Abhi just write it down, no confidence motion. We'll be discussing it in the parliament chapter, right? Full stop. Case study लिखो. Recently, MP Owaisi exercised his right of getting the votes recorded, and called for a division, देखो logic समझो. When they are saying I and no, right? No one knows that from where the voice is coming. It is the collective decision of the house. But when there will be a division, the I members would be on one side, no members would be on one side. People will know the stance of their representative, है ना? So that's why division method is there. ठीक है? चलो, right. So MPs, where were we? चलो. And called for a division on the introduction. And called for a division on the introduction of a triple talaq bill. On the introduction of triple talaq bill. full stop, in which Lok Sabha allowed the introduction with 185 votes in favor, comma 74 opposed and 6 abstained. Okay, and 6 abstained. Now this voting, which is done by division method, in which the votes are recorded, right, they can be done by making them to sit in separate places, I side wale, no side wale. But if there is no proper division done to make them sit differentiately, then it is done by paper voting method. And how paper voting method works? There are two kind of paper slips awarded. One is green paper slip. Those who want to say yes, so they can sign on green slip. Those who want to say no, they can sign on red slips. So ye not important, just for your general knowledge. And there is this yellow color also, who can sign on those who want to abstain from voting. Okay, ji? And then write down the historical perspective. Underline. The first time UPSC has this trend, right? It is asking the questions, right? When was the first nationalization take place? When was the Operation Polo took place, right? When was the first time the Communist Party got into power? So it is asking such questions in prelims. So write down the historical aspect. The first recorded vote, bracket mein likho division. The first recorded vote can be by slip method, division method. Bracket mein likho division. In Lok Sabha took place on its second day of sitting in 1952. Full stop. It was to decide on the election of the speaker. And in the running were G.V. Mavalankar and S.S. Moore. G.V. Mavalankar, Mavlankar, G.V. Mavalankar, and S.S. Moore, M-O-R-E, in which Mavalankar won with 394 votes. And you'll be surprised to know that out of 394 votes in which Mavalankar won, even his opponent Moore was voting. And you'll be surprised to know this also, that Moore in his vote signed for whom? Signed for Mavalankar. Okay, so this was Indian democracy. This was the pinnacle of Indian democracy, right? This is a true democratic procedure. This is the country which you belong to. Have that sense of integrity always kept inside your heart, right? On this note, we shall end this class, and I hope you people revise. Get yourselves a bare acts. जितने भी article 249, 312 and 368 and 61 सिर्फ पढ़ लेना एक बार bare acts. Just have a reading. समझ नहीं आएगा, I know, बस एक बार पढ़ लेना. Still, we'll be discussing it. Initial class next वाली वहीं से शुरू करेंगे, ठीक है? But still एक बार read ले लेना, ठीक है? So on this note, I shall take your leave. So thank you so much. See you guys in the next class.